Why are we running out of babies? I keep hearing this message. We're running out of babies. Where are the babies? We're not making enough people. How did that happen? How did we go from, oh my gosh, there's so many people, we got to quit making people, there's people everywhere. We're not going to have anything left for anybody else in the future if we don't stop making people. And then all of a sudden we've reached this point where we're not making enough people. How did we get from here to here? How did that happen? What was the mystery behind that? And why didn't we get a warning in the halfway point? Hey, I noticed we're just starting to make a few less people than we need to keep the population sustained. Do you think you guys over here could start making a few more kids? Could you just do a little bit more work on your end? Where did that medium point not get discussed? What was the deal there? Yeah, we're going to get into that today. So that's the hot topic. We might ruffle a few feathers along the way. Are you ready? Here we go. All right, so we've been told for years and years there are just too many people. Just quit making kids. There are too many people. Don't be so selfish. There's not going to be any resources left for the future generations. That's what we were told. It was on the media, it was on the news. Everybody told us that. And all of a sudden, pretty soon, we're not making enough kids. That was the reality. And as a result, what is happening to our family culture? I don't hear people saying so often, I want to have a family. I'd like to have a family. I honestly believe many people feel it's somewhat unattainable because they're trying to find this person to start a family with, and it's just not happening. It's just not happening. And there's several reasons to that, and we'll get into that in a little bit here. So, how did all this happen? Where did this begin? And I believe it started in the public education system. I really believe it all began there. And I'm old enough now that I can look backwards and try to make sense of all of the seeds that were planted along the way that contributed to our now. And what I remember in the 1980s is having this scholastic reading material on my desk, and I think I was in grade 5 or 6. And on the front of this scholastic, it showed a woman welder. She was welding, and it said, "You too can be just like a man. You can be like a man." And I'm a little kid, and I'm looking at that going, well, that's kind of weird. She wants to weld. Okay. I don't care. I didn't have any reason to not let her weld, not let her do what she wanted to do. I could have cared less. But there it was. It was in my face. And the sad reality of it all is there was never any mention about the boys. How did the boys become better men, better contributors to our society? There was nothing in these articles to lift the men up. It was all about the women. And the sad thing of it is they told women that you need to be strong. You need to ignore your feminine qualities. Be strong. Be like a man. Be a leader. Get a job. Be a boss. Never mind that most people don't even want to be a boss, but now you're expected to be a boss. Bizarre. But that was what they were taught. And women were forced to believe this, whether they wanted to or not. That was the crazy thing. And I want you to think about something. Back in the past, times were not perfect. They weren't perfect. They had their own problems, they had their own complexities. But if you look back, people were so much happier than they are today. And think of this. There was a time where one person could go to work, make enough money to support a family, and have something extra to put the kids into school. And when did that change? It all changed around World War II. And what happened was when the men were out at war, the women had to stay behind and make the country function. So many women were working in factories. And my grandmother worked in Fort Lewis Army Depot. She ran a munitions depot where they were making ammunition for World War II. And she told me that at that time it was the most money a woman could make. So that was what she did. She went there and made a bunch of money. And at the same time, she had my dad. And long story to that. But in any event, She became the hardest, strongest woman I ever met. And because of that strength, she hid most of her femininity. It was all a provider mentality. And I grew up missing that feminine quality that a nurturing mother, grandmother would normally have. I didn't get that. I got this cold, stern, hard persona. And my dad grew up with that. And yeah, that there's other issues that come along with it. So that's what women are encouraged to be. They're encouraged to be that Rosie Riveter. You can do it. You can do it. But at the same time, it comes at a price. And they don't teach the girls this. They don't teach them, if it's all about you, then it's destined to fail. Remember that. If it's all about you, then it's destined to fail. Because in humanity, it takes two to make everything come together. And if it's one center focused, if one person's on the pedestal, it's not sustainable. Okay? So as a result, women are taught that career or career and baby is the way to find happiness. Career or career and baby. Okay? And so how does that look? So many girls are taught to abandon their femininity. Don't have long hair, don't wear dresses, be tough, be strong, be like a guy. You don't need to be feminine and girly and all that. You could just be strong. Otherwise, men aren't going to respect you if you're not strong enough, which I don't agree with, but that's what they're taught. And so you've got some women that are growing up that absolutely do not want a kid. They're like, I don't want a kid. I have no desire to have a kid. And that's okay. That's their choice, right? That's their choice. But then the other women are taught that, okay, you go out, you get a good career. You focus on your career. And at the last minute, when half your eggs, more than half your eggs are gone when you're in your 30s, then it's time to have a kid. But what they don't tell the girls is this. Most of the guys see women in their 30s for having a child as high risk. Why? Because there's a greater chance of birth defects. There's a greater chance of many other issues happening. And often, a guy having a girl with a career is going to have to put the kid in daycare because her job is more important than her kid most often, okay? And if she has a kid, she's in fear that if she goes to raise the kid, she's going to lose that job and not get back into that market. So then you've got the kid that's going to daycare. Yeah, I could say a lot about that. I remember seeing some of the daycares when I was a kid. My friends, my neighbors had daycares and stuff, and that was hard on the kids. It really was. And so you've got that mindset where it's all about her and what she wants. But what they don't tell her is it's going to come at a great cost. And oftentimes, she'll wait to the last minute and then go, okay, almost half or more than half of my eggs are gone. I've got to find a guy. Oh, Steve, come over here. Let's have a kid. And Steve's like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to settle down. Oh, Jim, let's have a kid. I don't know if I want to settle down. And then she sees this guy that, he'll hang out for the night, but he's not too serious. And she'll say, come on over. Because at this point, she just wants to have that kid. So she'll have the kid with this guy. And then what happens? Then she's like, you know what? It's just not working out. It's just not working out. You need to go away. See ya. But now the guy's on the hook for child support if he sticks around and he doesn't give her some anonymous name. And now she's thinking, well, now I've got a little extra time. Now I can start looking for Mr. Right now that I've got my baby. And you see how bad this is for the kid, for the family situation. If it's all about her, it just becomes a non-functional rolling disaster for the kid especially, and for her as well, because now her stability is gone. Her stability for her family is non-existent because she put herself first. So the craziness is humanity's trying to rewrite thousands and thousands of years of evolution of how things worked, trying to say, okay, we've got a better way. If we have a better way, is it sustainable? If it's sustainable, where the hell are the babies? Where are the babies? Actually, it's becoming non-sustainable as the evidence declares. And how do we change that? How do we pull out of that nosedive? Now, some people don't realize this, but if you study some of the Asian countries, especially Japan, they're running out of people. They're just flat out not making enough people. And I've asked this question with my students that I tutor in Japan. I ask them, why do you think this is? Why do you think they're not making enough people? And often they're not sure, but they kind of allude to, well, we have a problem with our economy. We don't have enough money to sustain a family. And that's logical, right? That's a logistical issue. But when I look at humanity as a whole, and I think about all the countries that make kids that don't have any money, they'll make a kid and then they'll figure out how to provide for this kid later. I think, is this really the reality? Is this true? Is this how humanity is? And I think about my answer as being no, it's not. But what did change? And here's my best opinion. I seem to feel that in those countries, we've lost attraction for each other. What does that mean? For example, I think the women have become so hard, so strong, that most guys are like, I don't want a woman that strong. I want somebody that's a little bit feminine, that's the opposite of me. I want somebody to complement me and come together as a partner. I don't want somebody that's just like me. That's not attractive. And I think for the women, they do not respect a weak man. And they'll say it. They'll say it flat out. They'll say, he needs to put his foot down. He needs to be a man. And so if we lose attraction for each other, we become the opposites of who we are, then why would we be making babies, right? Why would we be making babies if we're not attracted to each other? Think about that. Does it come down to money? I think people have been attracted to each other and have had relations regardless of money for thousands and thousands of years. I believe it comes down to attraction. So how do we change this? It has to go back to the education system. We have to train people to actually be okay with who they are when they're born, not tell them that they're not acceptable, they're defective, they need to behave a certain way. And I think we need to lift up each other equally. If this is about equality, then we need to be lifting up boys into men and girls into women at the same level. That's what true equality is. And if we don't have that, then we do not have equality. So that's where we're at, you guys. And that's all I got for today. See you next time.